Hey guys, so I have some really exciting news. So today I have officially self-published a book. And so I thought I would just sit down and talk about it and answer some questions that I anticipate would kind of come up, or some questions that have already been asked to me by others. So yeah, let's just kind of talk about the book, all that good stuff. So I feel like self-publishing has such a crappy connotation behind it for decent reasons, let's be honest. Because on one hand, you get self-published or indie published books like The Atlas Six, and I've not read that book, but everyone seems to really love it. It must be pretty good because there are a lot of people that really stan that book. But then you also get stuff like Quarantined with the Lumberjack, Troll, and other fun self-published books, which I'll link the videos where I know that these exist down below because they're amazing videos. So you get some stuff where it's kind of like, what were they thinking? And it's kind of apparent why they chose to self-publish. But the thing is, right now, in general, publishing is such a mess. Like, there are so many unhappy people in the world of publishing right now. Unhappy agents, unhappy editors, unhappy writers. Because, like, ultimately, we have a system where a lot of agents and editors, they're not being paid crap, they're overworked, and as a result, those problems have kind of trickled down into the writer side of things. It's very difficult to get published nowadays. And the thing is, I have and am still trying to traditionally publish some science fiction and some, possibly in the future, some paranormal. We'll just see how that particular manuscript goes. And I'm still going to try to traditionally publish those because I believe in them and I'm not going to give up. So that's its whole thing. But I wrote a poetry collection, and publishing poetry is kind of not a thing that happens super easily. And the reason why is because it's only been recently that poetry has become a more mainstream thing. But a lot of the poets that are getting published are ones that have done some really successful work on Instagram. So you have like Insta poets, and then you have like literary poets, and then you have me. And my poetry falls somewhere in between. And I just feel like nobody wants it, like, at least in terms of publishing. I think that there are plenty of people out there that would enjoy my poetry. I just don't think that it's the most publishable moment for my poetry in general, especially because my poetry collection is extremely niche. It's called The Poets Tarot, and it's literally one poem for every single card of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So the whole thing is laid out in verse. I tell the entire story of tarot in verse. So that being said, it's a poetry collection. So you can read it if you like poetry, but you can also look at it as like almost a guidebook in verse to tarot. So if you're interested in poetry and not tarot, I still think that you would find value in it. And if you're interested in tarot, but maybe you haven't read a ton of poetry before, I still feel like it's accessible for you guys. And then of course, if you like both, it's perfect for you. A lot of publishers are stringent when it comes to publishing poetry. A lot of agents don't even want to look at poetry. And I did ask on social media, Llewellyn, if they were interested in publishing something like this. And they're like, nope, no poetry, even if it does kind of serve like a guidebook. So I was like, all right, let's just self-publish it. That was a pretty easy decision for me. I feel like there's a lot of people that would like this. I just don't feel like there were a lot of people that would want to publish this because it is kind of a really weird niche. And so since it's called The Poets Tarot, sometimes people see the title and they're like, oh my god, you're coming out with a deck, because that tends to be what decks are called: the Shadowscapes Tarot, the Wild Unknown Tarot, the Lion Strider Tarot. Those are the 3 decks that I have. Mine, it's just a poetry collection. There's no deck. It would be really cool to make a deck, but it's not a deck. So I wanted to make that clear. It's called The Poets Tarot, but it's just a poetry collection. So you can buy this on Amazon. I'm self-publishing through Amazon. It's just very accessible to people that way. You can get it as a paperback or an ebook. I tried to keep the prices nice and low. A lot of times poetry collections, even for a little tiny paperback, will be like $15-16, sometimes $17. I'm trying to keep mine close to 10. And so that's up on Amazon today. So if you click into my link tree, it'll be the top link where you can purchase this on Amazon. if you would like to preview some poems before you decide to purchase. I get it. Everyone, we want to be careful with where we're spending our money. Everyone is broke. The gas prices, as Ice-T told us on Twitter, are robbing us. You can actually check out my Instagram. And so I have other poems on there that aren't in the collection. If you see a poem with a white background, it's not in the Poets Tarot collection. If you see a poem with a bluish sort of pastel background, it's in the Poets Tarot, and I mention in the description if that's where it's from. So if you'd like to preview some poems first, that would be a great place to do that. So click on my Instagram in my link tree. I wrote these poems between 2017 and 2020. I started writing them very, very slowly at first. I was in my advanced poetry class, which I talked a little bit about in my poetry anthology video that I recently put up. I really grew as a poet there, and one of the poems that I wrote in that class was Queen of Wands, which is my favorite card, and she was always the figure that I identified the most with. So I wrote that poem, and I thought it was amazing. It was like one of my best poems for the class. My professor loved it. It was really well received. So he said, you can make this whole project if you wanted to, and I was like, no way, Jose, that's gonna be like a pain in the butt. It's gonna be difficult to do. Like, it's gonna be so focused. But after a while, I kept returning to the tarot for inspiration. I kept writing different poems, and it got to a point where it's like, maybe I could just do the major arcana. And I did the major arcana. It's like, maybe I can do this. And so I tried to do it, and I did it. And it took 3 years to write the thing. And I finished, thank God, at the beginning of 2020. I literally wrote down the date that it was finished. It was March 2nd, 2020, so kind of calm right before the storm. I did not do well with quarantine, lockdown situation. And I wasn't like complaining about it. I understood how necessary all those precautions were. It just made me feel insane. My creativity just took a nosedive. I could barely write anything up until end of last summer, to be honest. So thank goodness I finished it when I did. And so what I decided to do was I did a round of editing myself. I did a round of editing with one of my best friends who basically mentored me into the tarot. And then I wanted to make sure that I had the best cover possible, because I know that sometimes self-published books, they got those nasty, crusty covers, and nobody wants that. And so I commissioned a high school acquaintance, Haley Ameling. She is like the best artist I've ever met, and so she was able to do that for me at a decent price, which I'm super grateful for. So I have a beautiful cover. I wanted to take some time to kind of get some samples out online so people could kind of see, and that's why there's kind of this big gap between when I finished it and then I edited. I kind of started to promote, I got the cover done and all that stuff. And so it's been such a process between finishing the writing and trying to self-publish, because I wanted as many people to be aware that it existed as possible before it came out. It's been a little over 2 years since I completed it. And as a result, sometimes I look back at some of them and I'm like, wow, my style even since then has changed a bit. And I feel like if I publish poetry again in the future, which I'm sure I will, even if it's just self-publishing again, like, it's not going to quite be the same. I feel like in many ways I've grown out of some of the minimalism. My poems are a little bit more long-winded now, not by much. And so it is, I feel like one of those artists like Grimes. So Grimes will drop an album, but by the time it's out, she's like, yeah, I don't like it anymore. Like, that's how I feel about some of it. Like, but it is good, and I am still super, super proud of it. And so since I've said before that my style is like a mixture of, it's like somewhere in between insta poetry and literary poetry, kind of in between, I would say that it is simple, but it's not like too simple. That's kind of my thing. Some of the poems are super, super short, super accessible stuff. But yeah, I would super appreciate if you bought it. If tarot and poetry mixed together sounds good to you, I would be super grateful if you bought a copy, whether electronically or in the paperback format. And if this isn't my thing, but you know what? My one cousin that reads tarot, and she's super weird, maybe she would like this. Show it to your weird cousin that reads tarot. Like, show people that you think would like it, because it is really difficult to get people to know that your book exists when you are self-publishing and you're nobody. And I feel like there are a lot of social media strategies to get more people to follow you and to look out for your stuff, but I just haven't been willing to like follow for follow. You know what I'm saying? That feels like fake energy. Like I feel like I only want to follow people that I actually want to follow. I'm not going to just follow a bunch of people so that they buy my book. I didn't start this YouTube channel to just promote this stuff. I've been thinking about doing a booktube channel for literally years. But yeah, any way that you could, if you know somebody that might be into this, please send them to my Amazon link. Send them to my YouTube channel, whatever you gotta do. But yep, thank you so much for watching. If you purchased the book, thank you. If you show it to someone else, thank you. I'm really excited that today's my release day. Yay! Bye.